This is episode number 166 of the Smart Marketing Show. Print isn't dead. Print without digital is dead. Thank you to our sponsors, ServerPress, makers of desktop servers and make local WordPress development easy. Check them out over at serverpress.com. And your name here. If you haven't sponsored with us, you should. Go to our website at WPwatercooler.com/sponsor. Thank you to our patrons over on Patreon. Go over to patreon.com/WPwatercooler. I'm Jason Tucker. I'm an IT developer and director and a web developer. You can go follow me over at Jason Tucker. It's my friend Bridget Willard. She's a marketing consultant. You can follow her at YouTube Guru on Twitter. And this is our guest, Keith. Keith, I'm excited to talk to Keith today. How are you doing, Keith? How is everyone?
I'm doing very well.
Good. I'm glad to hear it.
This is gonna be cool. I'm looking forward to this conversation. This is gonna be fun.
Keith, I listened to the pronunciation that you sent me, and I can remember it this morning. Yeah, tell us a little bit more about you, Keith, and especially your last name.
Okay. Since you started it that way, Jason, Tucker is easy. Willard is pretty straightforward. My grandfather was an infantryman in World War II, and I have an opinion of my last name.
Ooh.
There were multiple years where he or my father could have had a legal name change and made it more phonetic, and they chose not to. Therefore, I will not. My name is Besherse. It's spelled the way it's spelled, and I'm going to keep it because of my commitment to my grandfather and my father who served in Vietnam.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you for that. I appreciate a little bit of the history behind it. I too am doing some genealogy work, which requires a lot of looking through paper, especially digitized versions of paper. And yeah, at some point in my family history, someone changed their last name as well. And we had a lot of Germans that came over that just changed their name to something else and made it worse. I don't understand it. So, but it looks like you lucked out. So that's awesome. So today we're going to be talking about print, which is what I was alluding to a little bit while we were talking about this. And is print even dead? Is it dead? I don't know. We're going to find out from Keith. So Keith, tell us a little bit about like your background in print. Like, why are you even on the show about print? What do you got going on there?
Okay. Yeah. So I was in the Army for that's worse. I was in the Army for over 24 years, active duty, and I thought I was going to take that experience and go into operations or logistics. And as I started engaging with my local community where I was looking for work, this guy says, "Yeah, I've got a perfect opportunity for you. I've got a print shop. I'm not ready to sell it yet. Come take over." And we'll see how it goes. We'll do a reevaluation 3 to 5 years from now. Why would anyone want to be in printing in the 21st century? And some hemming and hawing and some soul searching. And thank you, I appreciate the courtesy laugh there, Bridget. And I said, okay, what we're talking about is a small team leadership. That's what I do. We're talking about production. It just happens to be turning ink and paper into a thing, right? We're talking about Lean Six Sigma, where I walk into this shop and I can see the inefficiencies, and I know intuitively that I know how to fix them. I just don't know technically yet how to fix them. So I say, okay, let me take this on. And as I started working on running the shop, and my main role was the outside sales, I've got to convince people that they need to buy printing. And what I found was that nobody in the B2B market is buying printing because they just love printing. Even those of us who love to touch a physical book, we don't buy the book for the book. The tactile experience is part of the enjoyment of the material of the book, right? Similarly, no one's buying a print piece, whether it's as simple as a business card or whether it's a postcard or a brochure. No one is buying that piece to hang on a wall as a piece of art. Whoa! We do that, but that's called art. That's
right.
That's a different thing. And yes, in the print world, we can do reproductions of art, but that's not what the bread and butter of a print shop.
Right.
So what I was talking with people, I was realizing that really what we're talking about is a marketing strategy, of which print is a component.
Right.
So what matters is who is the audience? Who is the audience? What is the message we're trying to communicate to that audience? Does that message have value to that audience? And if not, I'm trying to get my fingers on a good background, then we need to shut up, right? Because we're doing them a disservice. We're creating noise in their environment, and we're not providing any help to them. We're not doing anything for them. So once you talk about that strategy, now we can discuss what pillars hold that strategy up. And print just becomes one of those pillars that holds that strategy up.
Oh,
It's
for sure.
what's the message that's on that print piece, and how are we getting that print piece in front of the audience?
And it kind of brings it alive, like as everybody knows, Fat Dog Creatives, Rhonda did my website and this one. And so like she designed my cards. And like, even though she designed my site, she also designed my cards, which you printed.
Beautiful card.
Thank you. So like she designed them so that, it would be like, even though it's, it's like this, right? Cool. Because the first rule of sales is put the product in their hand, right? So if you're digital, how do you put the product in your hand, But if they see this and then they go to my website, it will be familiar. Mm-hmm. So that's one role in which print, because if it didn't matter, then I would just get one of those QR code things from previous tool or tip of the weeks. And then it would, but even still, like the thing is you're touching it and it's a reminder. I love that part of it because it's so valuable, but like more specifically, how can, like, I know nonprofits love print. They won't stop printing. Like every time I get something from the ASPCA, the World Wildlife Fund, or whomever, I'm like, y'all are wasting all of our donations printing stuff. Just send me an email. Right? So like, but it must be effective because they're doing it. So like, how do you coordinate your print and digital campaigns?
Well, so let me say this about that first. I'm going to do a promotional for somebody who has no idea that I even care. There's an entity called Print Relief. So spelt with the second part of the word is spelled like the plant, a leaf on a plant, Print Relief. And they actually, so one of the things you can do when you're talking to your print shop is you can say, hey, are you a member of Print Relief? They have a contract where the print shop funds Print Relief to do reforestation worldwide. Oh. So you can actually be doing an environmental conservation thing by buying printing. So you're printing, they literally replant 2 trees for every 1 price turned into paper.
Oh, nice.
That's cool.
Okay. So the issue though is, so Print Relief. Okay. So the
coordinating print and digital.
How do you coordinate your digital and your print? And what I'd really love to do is get to what the lead leader does in a moment, but first I'll just talk about generically. First, just conceptually, when you put that message out that is your marketing strategy, the next question about which pillars you're going to use to support that marketing strategy is, where is your audience? Where are they listening? The reason that print has always consistently gotten a 1 to 2% response rate is we know people are listening in their houses. When that mail piece shows up in the mailbox, they have to physically touch it. They have to touch it at least 3 times. They take it out. Well, they have to touch it twice. Realistically, they touch it 3 times. They take it out of their mailbox. They put it on their kitchen counter. They put it in the recycle bin, and they've touched it. This crossed their eyes 3 times. There you go. Nice print release. It's crossed their eyes 3 times. You've got 3 impressions out of that one piece. It's always been really hard to correlate whether that particular person showed up in the store or not. But on average, the statisticians of the world were able to confirm during the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s that that is the response rate. You're getting a 1 to 2% response rate. We now have all these other channels. So making sure, and so Bridget, it goes to what you just showed about your business card, and I really appreciate the opportunity to print it. If your business card has a different imagery and a different emotional component, emotional feel from your website, you create this dichotomy in people's minds and they don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
So just making sure that you're using the same designer and you're validating the consistency across all those channels is one of the key components of just making sure that your total message is coordinated and synchronized. Yeah.
And that's typically because of the fact that the person is most likely going to be
Rhonda.
Yeah. Like they're going to be holding that business card and then looking at it and then typing in the website that they're going to be going to, or like we were talking about in a previous, you have like a QR code that is on a card that somebody would scan or something like that, or they're going to pull out the card to make a phone call to call you for your services, or they're going to find your email. Like all of the call to actions are listed on that business card, not this one in particular, but all of those call to actions are on that card. So the person is going to look at it, then they're going to go and execute off of that. Do you feel that like the reason why print is so important for the strategy is that there's either a bit of authenticity that's behind it, or that there's something where there's it feels like it's official business? So like, for instance, I have like, I have a letter that I got from the DMV where I needed to renew my tags for my car, for licensing purposes. Yeah. If they were to send me an email with that, I probably wouldn't, for one, I'd probably think it's fake because it doesn't have an authentic feel to it. But the other part of it is that this is an action item, because now I'm like holding on to this thing, and it's like, by me receiving this thing, I actually have to do something with it. Do you feel that business cards have that same kind of feeling to them as well, that it's an action item or something that you're going to throw into the queue that you're going to have to look into later?
Maybe not a business card, but a flyer or a brochure. I think that the business card is kind of a transition piece.
Okay.
But I agree with the point you're making, that that authenticity is a word that you used. That the experience of actually touching it makes it feel real. Yeah. So I can get effectively this exact same message in a postcard which says, "Hey, I want to buy your house," or I can get a message in a text message say, "Hey, I want to buy your house." When it's in my text message, it seems like a scam anyway. And then when they have the wrong person's name and the wrong address, then I know they got bad data. Well, then we'll talk about data in a minute. This one came to my house. Clearly, whoever real estate agent wants to buy my house has the right person and the right address, and they've correlated it, and it feels like it's something that I should I have to at least consider not just delete, block, right?
Yeah.
And Jason, your
Right.
point about email is really similar. I've got lots of emails stacked up in email in an email right here, and yeah, I'm not blocking these people, but I'm also not reading everything.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a all-out assault on many fronts. If you want to go back to military strategy, which is one of my favorite things to talk about in marketing, because it's not that. I mean, it's pretty the same. So, like, that's what happened with Ocean Honda. They send me emails, they send me text messages, they called me, and they sent me letters saying they wanted to buy back my 2015. And I wrote them back, and I'm like, there's no way you're going to qualify me for a loan. They're like, no, we will. And one day I just couldn't take it anymore. I wanted it to stop. So my white flag was going in there calling their bluff. Well, now I'm leasing a 2020 Civic, so they won. But I had to make it stop because it was an assault. It was a marketing assault. It was a barrage of I want to buy your car, and I couldn't take it anymore. So clearly it was very effective. So how are you like?
So Bridget, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
strategist, I'd love to go there.
Well, that was opening that door for you. I know you spent 24 years of your life, and thank you. My dad was in Vietnam too. I was just thinking the other day that if the Vietnam conflict had never happened, I wouldn't have been born.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting.
I was born 9 months after my dad got back from Vietnam.
So same.
Yeah, do the math. So in exactly right. In the military, in a pure nation war where you got force on force, that's a different thing. That's not what I'm getting ready to talk about. But in a insurgency or counterinsurgency where you've got people disputing with violence over the political future of a particular country, we have this spectrum, and there are people who are always going to support the government, and we have people who are opposed to the government, and you're not going to change their mind. But in the end, that's 10 or 15% on each end of the spectrum. And then there's 70% in the middle who we're actually talking to.
Yeah.
And what we're trying to do is take whoever the bad guy is and isolate him and discount him so that people don't pay attention to that message. And we're trying to take whoever we want to agree with and get more people to pay attention to what they're not listen to us, listen to what these people are saying, right? In a military counterinsurgency or insurgency, we do have the option to drop a JDAM bomb through the roof. In marketing, we don't have that option. It's not ethically acceptable.
I beg to differ. I get a lot of stuff in the mail during political campaigns.
Legal violence or illegal violence, depending on. You get a lot. Some of it's worded very aggressively, for sure.
Keith, I wanted to jump off of that real fast here. I know you're getting to
seems violent.
So, like with that, there has to be a generational.
I made my point.
Yeah, but there has to be like a benefit to working the generational gap as well with this, because I'd imagine that if you were to like each different generation and each different age class of people would probably respond to a piece of paper coming in the mail differently than someone who's just going to receive email. I mean, I get people who receive email at work. I work at a church. We work with a lot of people in nonprofit space and local communities and all that sort of thing. And I have people that are at my church who think that email is an official business and every single email needs to be responded to. And I don't just beg to differ, but It's like, I don't understand why do you think this is like, half of this stuff is junk, just throw it away. Like, you don't have to respond to every single thing. But when you receive a physical thing, the older folks may look at this and say, this is something I need to work with. A younger person may receive their first letter in the mail and go, oh, what should I do with this? So could you talk about like the working that angle of maybe the age gap or different ages can kind of work through these a different way? It kind of works with some, like how would you approach that, or how do your customers approach that?
Yeah. Certainly there is a difference. I'm not sure that the pendulum is starting to swing back the other way on this particular topic yet. On some of the things that I think are happening in our society, I have an opinion that there's a pendulum swing in how people interact with each other, and a less acceptance of hierarchy and formality. I think kind of our generation, we got this, hey, these digital tools are great, let's use them. And I think there's a pendulum swing back to, hey, I'd rather have real relationships and get real contact with people. And I think that print actually ties to that. I'm not sure I have any, even anecdotal, let alone statistical experience that says, I don't know, Jason, I think your statement about authenticity is really insightful. I think there's maybe a learning curve when somebody becomes a moves out of their parents' home and in their own space. There's always that, what do I do with this? And it's been called junk mail in their life, and so they think of it that way. But in everything, there's a little bit of a experiential curve of, oh wait, this is actually addressed to me. Maybe I do need to at least consider what it says. So I don't know. That's an interesting question.
I mean, we believe things that are written. I mean, it's kind of in our DNA.
Right.
And you touch it, it has your name on it.
We have yeah, and you immediately say, oh, that is to me. Now, I'm not necessarily going to take any action, but my brain tells me that I'm obligated to respond to it in some form or fashion. But I don't know, Jason, maybe for somebody who is, say, 20 or 30 years younger than me rather than 10 or 15, maybe that would make a difference. That's an interesting question.
But it kind of goes to the psychology of our identity, and from the book, Making Friends and Influencing People by Carnegie, Dale Carnegie or Carnegie. I don't know, like you watch Ken Burns, it's all Carnegie. Carnegie. But like your name is the most important thing. The most important sound to you as a person is your name. And that's why people get so upset when they mispronounce it or misspell it. You don't even know how many times my name is misspelled. Even Willard, people are trying to put extra I's in there, like Williard. And Bridget's got all kinds of T's and everything going on.
I started the show not saying his last name. It just goes to show you.
Right? And so we've gotten to a place where we're reading and reading and reading, but we're not interacting, and the print gives us an opportunity to interact. Right?
Right. Yeah, so the print has again, Bridget used the word that tactile moment, and it impacts us viscerally. It tells us that this is a substantive message, where even when you're reading an ebook and you're scrolling, the content is literally the same, but it just impacts your brain a little bit differently. So from a marketing perspective, the question is, how do you leverage both? The print piece is a slower cycle. The digital is all very much here now. Let's go. And if you don't hit that person in the right 30-minute window, they're not even going to see your message because it's going to scroll on by on Twitter because everybody's blowing up Twitter with all the political stuff. And I'm talking to the Twitter person in the room. So I know the platform has strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
The print piece has strengths and weaknesses. Telemarketing, somebody picking up the phone and power dialing until they get somebody on the line still has a place in the marketing world. The question is your message one that's going to get somebody to stay on the phone once you get through to them?
Yeah. I mean, we've been talking about landing pages.
Support a marketing strategy.
Yeah. So we've been talking about landing pages a lot lately, Keith. And like how the domain looks and stuff like that, and buying a certain domain. So have you seen clients use print media to reinforce their landing pages? Or I mean, I'm thinking maybe real estate people.
Actually, well, especially that's a good one, because especially a real estate person who is an agent of a brokerage, they're trying to brand themselves as an individual agent with a local market, and yet they're carrying a national brand name. So this is a really interesting challenge, interesting conundrum of how do you get people's minds to correlate Keller Williams or I almost said a financial advisor, financial brand. Good grief, I was having a conversation yesterday. Anyway, there's national brands, and yet how do you get people to say, yeah, I know that brand, but my agent is so-and-so who happens to work for that brand, who is branded that, but they have their own unique brand.
Right.
So yes, I'll talk about it. I'll talk about the print. One of the things that we're doing as the lead leader is the mailing piece. Instead of being a standalone component, what's actually important is the address. So instead of being about the mailing piece, it's about the address.
Oh.
What we can do as we approach the second quarter of the 21st century, is we can correlate physical address, email address, social media accounts to about 40% accuracy before we even start, let alone once we start, and the phone number that lives at that address.
Wow.
So it's not about the mail piece. It's not about the email. It's not, did I say email address? It's not about the mail piece. It's not about the email address. It's not about the social media account. It's not about the phone number, it's not about the mail piece. It's not about the email. It's not about the social media post. It's not about the text message. It's about the fact that we have one data point that says, I know that Keith lives at this address with this phone number, or maybe two phone numbers. And he's on these 3 social media platforms with these 3 accounts. Now let me take and put my message in front of him repeatedly so that he can get to that 7 to 12 touches that it takes to create even a brand impression, let alone a buying decision in the information age. And so that that's where the power, that's where the correlation comes, is it's not about the piece, it's about the message that all those pieces are consistently carrying, and it's engaged the target, the audience that we have said in our marketing strategy is who we want to talk to. So if it's that real estate agent, these are the homeowners in my community who I want to talk to. They're defined this way. Or these are the renters in my community, and I know they have enough disposable income that they could take out a mortgage, but they're afraid, or they're whatever. How do I address that issue so that they then see me as the person that can get them out of a rental and into an ownership of a property? That's where the messaging comes in, and the fact that we can touch them in every single channel where they're looking. And as soon as, now you talked about the landing page, as soon as they respond to any of those messages, we take them not to the sky, we take them to a dedicated landing page based off this particular marketing campaign, and we say, are you interested? And they opt in, they say, yeah, tell me just a little bit more. Well, now we're validating all of the data we think we already have.
Okay.
And we've got a warm lead.
Yeah. So the landing
now,
page is
as the marketing
validating,
agency, I turn around to my client and say, so the landing page validates all the data points that we think we had, and helps us find the other 2 or 3 social media accounts that they didn't tell us about, we hadn't figured out yet. And I turn around to the client and say, this person who was on your original mailing list, they are a warm lead. You need to call them time now, because we've validated this person is interested in who we're in our message that we're trying to share. And you're right, it's about the landing page. The landing page is where we do the validation.
See, I was thinking that, Jason, because we keep doing landing pages, and then I keep seeing Keith's stuff with the lead leader talking about print and digital, and I'm like, there's got to be some gold there, and we just found it.
Right. And that's
boom, mic drop.
that's where those landing pages are important, especially if you're trying to get them to go from a medium that is not digital, be it spoken word, be it a podcast. Like we have to convey to you to go to a specific website via me actually saying it. Where if it's written on a piece of paper, I have to look at that piece of paper and then type in the address. But that's your opportunity to, if you're really trying to figure out, did this person actually click on this thing, or did this person actually come from a particular medium, that you may want to have like a custom web address for that, or a custom short link, or a specific domain name for it, or a code that the person's going to have to type into. There's all sorts of ways of kind of tracking that part of it, but that whole divide, that whole switching over from one medium to the next, yeah, I mean, you got to come up with some special way to do it. There's no UTM code you can stick on there that's gonna track you to that part of it.
It'd be kind of stupid, like just based upon all this information so far, 30 minutes in, it'd be foolish, is a better word, to send people just to bridgetwiller.com, or remax.com, or whatever, insert hnrblock.com, whatever. You should never just send them to your generic plain website in a print campaign.
Yeah, it's a perfect one.
Wow. My brain is going do 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 do.
Because that's Well, Bridget, your point is exactly right, because that is the challenge that the print marketers had in the 60s, 70s, 80s. They knew people were walking into the store based off of having, and they knew which community they hit with that mail piece, and they knew people were walking into the store. They just didn't know if people were walking. They could see the spikes.
Yeah.
Right? So they know people are walking into the storefront based on the timing of when that mail piece hit their mailbox.
Well, and retail can do it with
Thus,
a
they know
coupon.
they're getting that 1 to 2% response rate.
Yeah.
In the digital age, telling people go to your homepage. Right, and then so that's why you start trying to refine it down by giving a discount code or giving a coupon. But Bridget, your point you just made is exactly right. If you tell people that you give them a QR code and the QR code takes them to your homepage, well, they've walked in your storefront. On the other hand, if you give them a QR code or a custom URL that goes to a distinct landing page, you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you validated, I was engaging this audience with this message, and in fact, that message is resonating. They're showing up on this landing page, and I'm tracking behavior on that landing page. Now I actually know things.
Yeah. Wow.
Instead of speculating.
Right. Trust but verify.
In the cavalry, we say coordinate, anticipate, verify.
There you go. It sounds like a marketing strategy to me.
Right, exactly. So what's the first step for someone? What should they be doing if they've been doing all digital and now they want to start really getting into the physical side of it? What's their first step? Who should they be talking to, and how should they be approaching it?
Yeah. One of the really quick questions should be to their designer to say, do you have a history of producing print design?
Okay.
Because so many of the young designers have never designed for print. And there's some color limitations. Two, there are just some parameter specific things that you just have to consider when you're designing for print, that when you see it on the screen, it's what you see is what you get, and it's going to be that way when you put it in front of the audience. So part of it is that I think that when you ask it that question, what's the first question? Have you designed for a print, and do you have a printer that you work with locally, or should I go shop for my own printer? Because if they have a printer that they already use, that's probably the printer that if you're already using them as your designer, and especially if you and your copywriter are already working together, then if they have a printer that they share, then that's who you should use.
It's pixels versus picas.
Yeah, and bleed.
Sorry, say again.
Right. Pixels versus picas. I'm just, like there's different measurements for, whether it's print or whether it's not, or inches versus pixels or whatever, terms of measurement you could use.
Yeah.
For sure. Wow. Right. So if we turn this conversation, so if we take this and put it into a WordCamp situation, which one day we might have WordCamps again, right, Jason? I don't know. It would be really good to have that print, so Kinsta, they did these books, right? Speed up your WordPress site and everything. And I got it from Montreal, but they don't know that. You could put a sticker on there and say, here's your code or something to see where people were actually getting your print, because they did spend the money to print this book, so the thing is, it's if we're going to do that, I know why people put their slides / whatever. I was like, why do you do that? Just put them on SlideShare, you weirdo. And now I'm like, oh, that's because it's their landing page. So, what would you say, Jason?
Yes, because it's not your homepage.
Right, not your homepage. I'm just so used to saying BridgetWiller.com, BridgetWiller.com, BridgetWiller.com. just like a doll that you pull the string out. There's a snake in my boot. So
you could
Jason,
have bridgetcard.com, and it could be your business card if you wanted to, or
that'd be
something
funny.
like that.
Or Bridget.card.
Bridget.card.
Then I could change my last name and get married or something stupid
card.
like that. Yeah. So, wow, Keith, this has been like Jason, right? You're blown away a little bit.
Yeah. No, this is good stuff. Yep.
Yeah. So like this whole thing of, that's why I was like, oh, print isn't dead. Print without coordinating with digital is dead. Right. So that's the whole problem, is that you don't do it in the context. I mean, even my client, who's a realtor in Arizona, they send me these, their little newsletter. I get the email version of it, but I still get the print one. And because people put these things on their refrigerators, and that's what it says, Bridget Willard, with my address and stuff on it, and that's what they're doing. So, I guess it makes sense people still use door hangers, right?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. Well, hey, you want to transition into our tour tip?
Yes.
You should probably do that.
Still work.
Okay. I will let you know that we don't have an official sponsor for this episode of Tour Tip for the Tour Tip of the Week, but I do want to let you know about a new show that we have coming out on WP Watercoolers Network, which is called The Query. The Query is think of what WP Watercoolers previous show, which was called WP Blab, which was what this show is, but WP Blab's origin started as a question and answer show. The Query, on the other hand, is very much so a question and answer show. Jason Cosper, who's one of the co-hosts on WP Watercooler, is starting this show out, and his idea and premise behind it is that he wants to help the folks that are trying to figure out how to use WordPress, how to use technology, how to use all these things to kind of make it all work together. And what he's doing is he's posing the question, allowing you to query him, to ask him what is the what is it that you're having issues with, and he'll be able to help you out. So if you go to wpwatercooler.com/thequery, that'd be a landing page, by the way, Bridget. They would go onto that page and scroll down about halfway down the page. There's 3 options that you can choose from. The first one is you could just leave a normal email, just send an email through a form and ask your question that way. The second way is that you could submit it via a hashtag on Twitter. And the third way is, and this is kind of an interesting one, but you can actually leave it as a voicemail. So you can click the link on there. It loads up. You can even be on your phone and it'll do it. And you could leave a voicemail for him, asking him a question. It is limited to a certain number of minutes or seconds, thank goodness, or you'd have somebody trying to tell you their whole life story, like I am right now with this pitch. But the idea is that you go to that and he'll answer your question. So he'll do a show. We'll put all these things together, and we'll actually answer all of those questions that are coming in. So feel free to go to wpwatercooler.com/thequery. And knowing Jason Cosper, he'll probably have some very interesting domain name that we'll use to redirect to it. So it'll be like, I don't know, like thequery.pizza or something like that. So, but feel free to go take a look at that. We really appreciate it. And that is The Query. And you can find that at wpwatercooler.com/thequery. All right, tour tip of the week. So if you're not familiar with tour tip of the week, we go around the room real quick and we kind of present a tour tip of the week, something that we enjoy, something that we've liked. It could be anything. It could be a piece of paper, it could be a book, it could be anything. So Bridget, what do you want to start us off? What do you got?
Okay, so I've been reading a lot more lately. Books, paper books. It's weird. Like now that I had LASIK, it's just so comfortable for me to read. And I'm almost finished with The Mermaid Chair, and it's so good. It's like one of the first fiction books I've read since I don't even know how long. But I'm also reading the second to one of the tools I've said before, Mark Manson. Oscar, our friend Oscar, Not a Grouch. He says it's kind of like Buddhism light for Westerners. Because like that's the thing is, like, I read a lot of nonfiction, and but the thing is, yeah, I could read on Kindle or have Kindle read to me, but it's not the same. We are on our computers all the time. And now even our meetups are virtual, and I'm just so sick of being on the computer. I never thought I would be that person. So just, laying down on my couch and reading, or sitting in my chair and reading, closing the laptop, forget about it. Yeah, you could do it on Kindle, but I don't want to look at a machine anymore. Okay. So
Right.
like my tip isn't specifically this book, but although I just started and it's pretty good. But take a break from, because we're all reading. We read the internet all day long.
Mm-hmm.
Go read something that's made out of paper. That's my tip.
Keith, what about you? What do you got to present for us today?
Okay, well, is it okay if I just do shameless self-promotion?
Yes.
Of course you can.
So my so good, thanks. So that ability to correlate the data associated with where that person listens, their physical address, their email address, that is the big data that all the corporations are using to target all of us. What the lead leader does is takes that big data concept and says, I can provide that same capability to the small local business or local nonprofit who is going out and trying to serve a local community. So that's what I'm bringing to the table.
That's awesome.
Very cool.
Fair enough?
Yeah, no,
Love
I
it.
think it's great. I love the idea. I love the connection between both digital as well as print. I think that that novelty that I was talking about with print, especially with the younger folks, might actually be the piece that that brings more of that tangible, physical, I'm touching a piece of paper type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like my daughter. She wanted a record player for Christmas one year, and I was like, "Why? You can just download any song you want." And she goes, "But I get to hold it." And I was like, "Oh wow, I didn't even think about that."
I know, but
there's a connection there when it's a physical thing versus just like the next track.
You know what though? Just as a tiny segue, it's also the album was created as a whole. The artist, the producer created it as a one experience for you to listen start to finish. Like when I did my album, the songs were specifically chosen to go together in a certain order. And like when I do my 6 p.m. Sunday bath with Radiohead and I listen to that whole OK Computer, like that, we don't do that anymore. We don't do anything in a context. We just pick and choose what we like. And I bet Jess is enjoying those albums as the whole art piece.
Yeah.
I would love to talk to her. We need to get her on the show.
Oh no, I'm scared.
What do you have for us, Jason?
So it's funny. I'm not trying to set this up. I'm not trying. This is not a bit. I'm not trying to set this up or anything like that. I don't know if the two of you can see what's going to be on the screen yet, but okay, good. So my mother-in-law had to go to the doctor just for a routine checkup, right? And she forgot her medical card. And she gets there and she goes through all this stuff and forgets the medical card. So I had to go. They asked me if I could fax them the medical card, and I was like, "Oh my!" I mean, I'm old enough to understand what faxes are, and I understand why they existed at some point, but I don't understand why they still exist. And I definitely know that they are not secure in any way, shape, or form. You can literally listen to a fax and then play it back to another fax machine to reconstruct the thing. like HIPAA compliance, I really don't understand. Like I have to build entire server rooms dedicated to HIPAA, but a fax machine that's just plugged into a wall is secure. So anyhow, I had to go download a thing called Snapbacks. Now there's a whole bunch, like literally there's a zillion of these different solutions that are out there to be able to send out faxes. I'm not saying that this one in particular was like the best one, but what I am saying is if you need to take a physical thing and digitally send it to them via a transmission system known as a fax, then like you can't take a picture of it and just email it to them, which would have been like way more secure. But oh no, instead I'm sending this as a fax. So if you need a fax, it supports all the things. If you want to download it for the iPhone or for Android or even on a Mac, or if you have a Microsoft device, you can do that as well. And it's dead simple. You take a picture of it. It puts a little green thing around it. You can kind of move all the pieces around on the corners to kind of get it to where it needs to be. I have a scanning program that does that. No joke. I have a scanner. I don't think I've ever used a scanner. I just like pull out my phone, take a picture of it. People hand me stuff at work. I take a picture of it. Like I just don't need your physical thing. Like I thank you for giving me the physical thing for a half second, but I just need to like capture it for half a minute. And I know it's funny considering we're talking about like this stuff on a show where we're talking about paper and how paper is such an important piece, but I needed to send a piece of paper from one side of the city to the other side of the city. So you take this thing, you put the phone number in it, and then you put your message in there and you send it. I think I spent $3 to get a couple credits on this system. But once you do that, you hit the button, it sends it, and you're good to go. I'd imagine there's probably a way of receiving a fax, but it was novel enough that I had to send a fax. So I know I'm probably not going to receive one as well. But yeah, so that's how I kind of went about it. It supports all these different countries and all these different places that you could send it. But like I said, I think I spent $4 in total to essentially not have to drive to the other side of town to be able to drop off that card.
Okay, but here's the thing, Jason. So my aunts,
Mm-hmm.
who are 75-ish, are now having to deal with my grandmother's estate.
Oh boy.
And go through all the legal system, and the courts aren't open. So they have to send everything digital with their Kindle machines.
Oh
because
no.
read. They don't. So like I'm gonna send Snapbacks to my aunt right now.
Yeah.
So, like she's so frustrated. She's so frustrated. She's not 47. She's 75. So there was a purpose, I guess. Thanks for bringing it up.
I mean, the idea of having to send off something like this, especially when it comes to, we live in such a digital age that I could have, like, it took me longer to download the fax application, put in my credit card or pay through, Apple Pay or whatever. Like this whole thing, right? Where I could have hit send and it would have sent them an email. And the card didn't even have like her social security number on it or anything like that. It just had like a user identifiable ID that's only in their own system that doesn't necessarily, I don't know. It was such a thing, but it was funny that this happened right before Keith's show, because it was like, we just did all this and now it's like, oh, we just talked about print. Oh, this is print. This is essentially print, even though like the only print part of it was I was taking a picture of something that was printed. And it didn't necessarily have to be printed.
It's real, Jason, when you had that crazy paper. I mean, plain paper faxes were the shit. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for your time and being on the show, Keith. I can't wait to type up all the notes. I've been writing them on paper.
Keith, do you have any final words for us or observations based off what we've talked about? We have a couple minutes left here.
It's been fun. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. No, Jason, I think you're. Oh my goodness, this is this really weird dichotomy is maybe the perfect summary of we want to test the pieces. We have a utility for having that thing, right? Yeah. But we also have this access through this digital medium where we can touch people who are a long ways away. So it's how do you have a shared experience where I'm touching a thing, but I'm communicating a message, right? And I have multiple ways I can do that. And that's the power of the digital age is I can do things that conceptually I wanted to do 20 or 50 years ago. Now I actually can do them. But how do I make sure that I do them in a way that still has a human relational experience within that context, within that platform?
Right. So important. So how do people find you?
And I think my connection is slowing down a lot. Okay, well, you had my homepage up, theleadleader.net. On that homepage, there's a link to under the direct mail, integrated direct mail phrase. There's an actual link to a landing page, which talks to what exactly we've been talking about today about the integration of direct mail with a holistic marketing campaign.
Sweet.
On the social media platforms, I'm either Keith Besherse or I am the Bald Guy Marketing, and you can find me on Instagram and Twitter as Bald Guy Marketing. LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or keith.theleadleader@gmail.com is easy too.
Cool.
Fair enough.
I'll definitely link to that in the show notes. I can't believe you did a thing it's so prepared. I love it.
Yeah, thank you very much, Keith, for being on the show today. We really appreciate it. I'm going to play our outro. So here we go. If you want to help us out on Patreon, go to patreon.com/WPwatercooler. We really appreciate that. And if you want to help us out just like these folks did, thank you very much for helping us out with that. We really appreciate it. If you like this stuff, hit the subscribe button, click that little bell if you're watching us on YouTube. We really appreciate that. And if you're wanting to listen to us as a podcast, we're a podcast too. Go to WPwatercooler.com/subscribe, where you can learn how to subscribe to this content and all the other content that we're putting out. As you can see, we've kind of updated all of the logos and all that stuff as well. So thank you very much for that. Talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.